So 4 years into the conflict in Syria now, the scale of the crisis has grown beyond all expectations. I started working in the region for Oxfam in 2013, and many of the families that I was meeting then thought that they would be here for a few months in Jordan, in Lebanon, and the countries they'd fled to. They thought that a solution to the crisis would be found and they would be able to go home to their homes. So many of them had just fled with the clothes on their back and whatever they could pick up. And years later, now they are stuck in a limbo in neighbouring countries with no end to the crisis. And the psychological impact of that displacement and feeling cut off from home really can't be overstated. So there were 22 million people living in Syria before the crisis started. Over half of that population now is in desperate need of humanitarian assistance, and massive numbers of people have been displaced.
What is important is that the longer the crisis lasts, the more difficulties the refugees are facing to pay their rent, and the more refugees are leaving or are going to informal tented settlement or to unfinished houses, buildings, garages. Today, the country is hosting 1.2 million refugees from Syria, which is equivalent to 25% of its population. Refugees are being present all over the country. I mean, there's very few villages, if any, that are not receiving refugees from Syria today in Lebanon. Living conditions for refugees are extremely difficult in Lebanon. If at the beginning of the crisis, I would say the relatively small number of refugees were mainly hosted by Lebanese communities. Today, the large number of refugees basically does not allow such an hospitality to extend to everybody.
Oxfam has been working for several years now to meet the needs of people affected by the Syria crisis. We're working across Syria, Lebanon and Jordan. And working to provide clean water for people to sustain them, hygiene facilities like latrines and wash blocks so people can remain clean. We provide cash assistance so that displaced people can buy the things that they need, be that rent to be able to continue to live in the areas that they are, or basic items. For example, in winter, people need blankets, they need fuel for food, they need to be able to heat water to continue to live in very, very difficult conditions. We also work with teams going out across the countries to get to know communities, to run information sessions for them and to really understand their needs. So we work with local partners who have been working with the communities here for a very long time. They come from the communities, they really understand those needs, both of the refugees who've come in, but also the host communities who are becoming increasingly affected by the crisis as well.
The return is not an option for a Syrian refugee. The key question is how can we do to make sure that humanitarian assistance will keep on being provided to the refugee population.
Pushing for a solution to the crisis is so important for all of the Syrians that we're working with, who don't just want to see a sticking plaster approach of meeting basic needs, but needing to know that there are people standing with them to press for an end to the violence and for a diplomatic solution to be found.
We don't know for how long we're going to be here. But we know that we're going to be here as long as this is necessary for us to be present.